Hello and welcome to Instant Transmission, a podcast where we discuss everything Dragon Ball and whether AI replacing voice actors is any different than hiring Chris Sabat. Tonight, we're going down the Frieza family tree as we tackle the Dragon Ball Z movie release, Cooler's Revenge. Stop holding back and prepare your strongest transformation, because tonight we're serving up some more hot alien action. I'm your host, Dayton, and once again, I'm joined by my co-host, Todd.
Hi.
Tonight's episode will be covering the 1991 movie release Dragon Ball Z Cooler's Revenge, which is dubbed in English by Funimation in 2002. According to the wiki, this movie takes place after future Trunks' first appears, but before the androids arrive, which I'm sure nobody has any questions about once again. So with all that covered, was there anything you wanted to add before we got things started, Todd?
The only other detail I wanted to bring up is the titles of this movie, both in English and Japanese, are hilarious to me because, first off, this one is titled Cooler's Revenge, and as some people know, the next movie is going to also involve Cooler, which, interesting choice. Secondly, the Japanese title for this movie, it translates to something along the lines of The Strongest versus the Strongest, which is such a generic title that it could really be like the title of any Dragon Ball movie.
I mean, we already had I think one that's Battle of the Strongest or something like that, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we did. So it's just, I don't know. It's just a funny title. Both titles are funny, honestly.
Well, speaking of funny, as we jump into the beginning of this Cooler's Revenge in the English dub, we get some classic American rock to kick things off with. And this goes alongside with a recap of Bardock confronting Frieza, which is such a shock for me to see starting a movie.
Yeah. So, and they have a reason for this, right? Because we kind of move from the destruction of planet Vegeta at Frieza's hands to seeing the space pod with little baby Goku flying away from planet Vegeta, and transition from there to our primary villain for this movie in King Cold, in Cooler's spaceship, with his henchman being like, oh, we should go kill that Saiyan that got away. And Cooler says, nah, let Frieza handle it. It's his mess to clean up.
So I have mixed opinions about this right off the bat. I love the idea of Cooler being like, we're not picking up his mess. Like, he started this thing. He can, do it all himself. Very, menacing, very bad guy. Love it. The other question I have is, why is Cooler just like hanging out in his ship by the planet? Like, does he have nothing else to do?
Probably not. He's kind of like, he's been the forgotten child by King Cold, and now he's just like, what's Frieza doing?
Yeah, so it's fun. Also, man, I need to revisit the whole Bardock Goku stuff because I don't remember the way the timeline of events worked. Was Goku just launched out the back door right before things blew up, or I thought he was like already out in space kind of a little while before that, but I also feel like I've seen like 13 renditions of this, and it's hard for me to keep all my facts straight.
It's changed a number of different times. I think there's, well, at the very least, I think Bardock confirms that Goku got sent off planet before Bardock confronts Frieza. So it's, at the very least, Goku gets sent off before planet Vegeta gets destroyed. How far before the confrontation with Frieza is anyone's guess.
But either way, so Cooler lets this kind of Saiyan loose end escape because he deems it being Frieza's problem. But one thing I want to note here is that I actually thought the American rock, because there's kind of a lot of musical before the singing comes in, I actually thought it kind of fit until you hear the singing, because I feel like it really kind of jars you back to, well, I guess the early 2000s era. And I think that's the part that doesn't fit for me, because without it, it's just some kind of rock and roll going over some kind of cool explosive stuff happening, and I'm actually kind of okay with it.
Yeah, there's probably a bit of nostalgia here for me as well, like remembering hearing the rock overlaid to the Dragon Ball visuals, but there's parts of it in this movie that I'm like, oh, that fits pretty well, and then there's other parts that I'm like, ooh, Ooh, that was an interesting choice.
Yeah, so I mean, it's going to be happening a lot throughout this, which I will bring up a few times.
Same.
But after this, we do get, well, the quote unquote standard Dragon Ball intro, with the Japanese singing being deleted to maintain the purity of my delicate American ears.
And we transition to this very generic opening to basically we're on Mount Paizu. We're checking in with Goku and Chi-Chi. Gohan's doing some studying, but the start of the story here is that Goku, Krillin, and Gohan are all going on a camping trip.
Yeah, and there's like a joke in here about uh Goku's encouraging Gohan to finish up with his studies, and that's not normally like Goku, who just wants to go do, training and fighting. And turns out the real motivation is he wants Gohan to finish his studies so that way they can hurry up and leave. And I thought it was a kind of a funny little gag.
Yeah, it's fine. It's kind of funny. Chi-Chi's, being uh Tiger Mom and getting Gohan to continue studying and stuff, but they get to go camping. And we kind of quickly kind of transition to Cooler and his henchmen making their way to Earth. Kind of quickly transition to the henchmen confronting our heroes on their camping trip.
Yeah, and so I thought this was interesting, right? Because we kind of go pretty like breakneck pace from, like, we get a scene of Cooler being informed that Frieza was defeated by a Saiyan, and then suddenly they're on Earth. So there's not really a build up to that event happening. And instantly the henchmen show up. Krillin gets knocked out. Gohan gets nabbed by his tail, so he's pretty much unable to fight. And Goku is forced to fight the three henchmen of Cooler all by himself. And I laughed a little bit when Goku's like, "Who are you guys?" And they're like, "We're Cooler's armored squadron." And then they do like a Ginyu pose. So this felt like it was trying to grift a little bit, but kind of not doing it very well.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm going to point out there's a lot of stuff in here that takes from Frieza like hardcore. And I mean, it kind of makes sense that yeah, Cooler is Frieza's brother, so there's going to be a lot of parallels there. But even down to the henchmen having their like dancing poses and stuff, it starts to feel, I don't know. It's kind of, if it's meant to be tongue in cheek, it's funny. Otherwise, it feels a little ham fisted.
I will say though, this initial little battle here, I think is one of the better sequences animated in these like little micro movies that we've been watching. Because as soon as the battle kicks off, we see Goku flying through the air, ducking under the first swing of one of the henchmen, then hand springing off the head of the next one, and using that kind of momentum to float above and around the sweeping kick from the third henchman. We see all three of them kind of gather and then attack Goku all at once, who catches one in one arm and then lifts the other and catches the second, and then lifts up his knee to block this third sweep that was going to hit his chest. I thought it looked really good.
Yeah, I like it. It's fun. It's some fun bits of little choreography. Goku like charges key energy around his body and fires a key blast out from it at in three different directions at each guy. And then moves to attack like the big bulky guy. Which he kind of gets grabbed and has to he dodges the attack from the I don't know what this guy, he's like a salamander guy. And then as Goku gets blasted, or a blast comes at him from the handsome one, he catches it and kind of deflects it up towards the salamander, and it looks like the salamander's head gets taken off by the blast, but then you see his head retracts down into his body and he can pop it back out. So it's cool. It's got some fun fight choreography in it.
Yeah, and honestly, I wish it would have gone on like a little bit longer, but it gets cut pretty short because Cooler arrives on scene. And yeah, Cooler is very menacing. He's a very bad boy. But Gohan also floats onto the scene. And I like that Cooler just looks up and fires eye lasers at him. And Goku is forced to jump into the air and, shield Gohan from the, like, grass, hug Gohan and get shot in the back and fall from the sky. So I don't know. I like the immediacy of Cooler. The chain of events that happen after Goku gets shot is really weird to me, though.
This next chunk is probably my least favorite part about this movie. This is, I think I mentioned to you before the podcast, Dayton, where this part kind of drags out because it's funny because we start, like you said, Dayton, almost at like breakneck speed, where Cooler's involved and on the scene on Earth within the first 5 minutes of the movie, basically. But then this part takes a while, as Goku kind of falls down into a waterfall. Goku and Gohan are nowhere to be seen as Cooler kind of like blasts after them. But Cooler says, "Oh no, they're still alive," and he tells his henchmen, "Find them and kill them."
And you would think that we literally just watched them fall into this river. Just watched them. Like it happened a few seconds ago. And the order's given to find them and kill them. And for some reason, his henchmen cannot locate a passed out Goku and Gohan in the river. I don't understand this. This makes more sense in the context of original Dragon Ball, where people don't fly at Mach 7, when people don't have scouters and all. Like, it's just weird to me that we get this transition from they fell into the river right there and they're gone. Oh, we can't find them. So we get this, I don't know. There's not even really a chase. It's just the next scene is they wake up on the riverbank somewhere and the henchmen are just flying through the air wherever looking for them.
Yeah, you'd think that they would just follow the river, right? Like spread out at different parts of the river and be like, they got to come up somewhere.
Yeah, they have to breathe at some point. They got to be here. And on top of that, the way it's animated, there's like the smoke trail coming out of the water that's signifying exactly where they're at. They could have just followed that.
That's funny. I didn't even notice the smoke trail, but yeah, the it feels very strange. And I mean, again, some of these movies they're setting up scenarios so that we have a story, and sometimes it feels a little bit forced. Um, they also kind of left like Krillin unconscious back at the camp with Oolong and Icarus. I mean, didn't seem to have any interest in Krillin. So, but all of this kind of culminates in Gohan and Goku pulling themselves out of the river. Gohan finds a little cave where he can kind of hide Goku for a moment. And then the entire landscape gets key blasted to hell as the henchmen are just like, well, we can't find them. We're just going to flatten the terrain and they should be dead.
Right. It's very History of Trunks. We don't know where he is, so we're just going to blow everything up. Which, unfortunately for them, this doesn't quite work. They don't take anyone's arms or kill anybody here. But yeah, our heroes are kind of taking shelter as everything's getting blown up. And I don't know. It's interesting because Gohan is basically, the game plan becomes Gohan's going to take Icarus and fly back to see Korin to grab some sensu beans, since they can't raise their power levels without getting found out. And Krillin's going to, who's now awakened there, is going to watch over Goku while he waits for Gohan to get back. And that's kind of the game plan they come up with.
Yeah. All in the meanwhile, they're talking about like the animals that have been like hurt or killed and all of this, and there's a handful of animals that are like staying with them. They kind of treat Goku like a fucking Disney princess in this, where he's just he's just surrounded by animals. He's like resting his head on a deer, and there's like bunny rabbits by him making sure he's okay. It's just a very funny kind of goofy feel to me in that way.
It's like, bro, at the start of this movie, you caught a fish that you were going to kill and eat. Like, let's not pretend you're this, like hero of nature.
It's just weird. Like, I get that you can be like, this is just part of the food chain. Like, okay, I'm killing this fish to eat it, but I would otherwise want to protect, wildlife or life in general. But it's also just like, I don't know that these animals would just be sleeping with you.
Yeah, I don't know. I will say this kind of middle-ish part of the movie, it's this weird kind of ham-fisted narrative that I think is supposed to add like a little bit of drama to it, right? It's oh no, the hero is down and out and it's a very tense situation. But at the same time, Goku got shot in the back with like a ki blast. It wasn't like there was a big buildup to this happening, but yeah. Gohan goes back. There's like this scene where he gets the sensu beans from Korin, who gives him a little bit of a hard time. And then before he leaves, like Yajirobe flicks him like one extra bean, and that's going to be important later. But yeah, he jumps on Icarus, and off they go. They begin flying back.
So as they fly back, Gohan gives Icarus a sensu bean because he's getting tired, and apparently this is enough to set off the scouters of Cooler's henchmen. And they find Gohan and Icarus. They basically shoot down Icarus. They attack Gohan, and they're about ready to dispatch Gohan when, as per usual for our Dragon Ball Z movie rules, when Gohan's in trouble, who shows up? Daddy Piccolo.
I laughed so hard because it's like, it's such a trope. You guys have done it every single movie at this point. But yeah, Daddy Piccolo arrives unseen, and he begins just unleashing a can of whoop ass on these henchmen. And he looks good doing it too. Like he's tearing them apart one by one. They're trying to like go after Gohan. He's launching ki blast to keep him occupied. Piccolo actually kind of looks like a badass in this scene.
Yeah, like we're kind of joking about Piccolo showing up to save Gohan in pretty much every movie. But I always enjoy watching Piccolo's style on the henchmen, man. Like he does it well. He basically, like, you see one scene where he moves out of the way and his cloak gets punched through, and then he like knocks that guy to the ground. He's trying to take on all three of them as Gohan gets away, and the big bulky henchman chases after Gohan. So Piccolo fires a blast at the salamander guy, to which he, I think, head dodges again. But the blast goes past him and homes in on the big guy, who even like flies past Gohan, which is kind of funny to watch. And that blast full on vaporizes the big guy. So that's already one kill to mark off for Daddy Piccolo.
And these weren't weak henchmen. These are people that easily, knocked out Krillin and dealt with Gohan as if he wasn't a problem. And this takes place sometime after Planet Namek. Both of them are juiced up a little bit, so these aren't weak people.
Yeah, absolutely. This kind of turns into Piccolo fighting the remaining two henchmen, and the salamander guy gets Piccolo with some sort of lightning attack. The handsome henchman just flies off, and Piccolo ends up grabbing salamander guy and using his own lightning attack against him, completely frying the salamander, to which point Piccolo now chases after our handsome henchman, which turns into a bit of a fight / chase scene.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? And this guy, actually, I learned his name around this point because he had more than 3 seconds on screen. His name was like Salsa or something like that. And Salsa, he notices Piccolo pursuing him and kind of dives down into the woods to avoid some like ki blasts and take the battle down there. And oddly enough, we get this really weirdly well animated scene of Piccolo's arm like twisting through the woods chasing Salsa, which I thought looked awesome, by the way. And this devolves into Salsa pulling out like a arm blade, like a key arm blade thing, and they do like the anime dash past each other, which I will make fun of. And Piccolo gets like a cut in his, his not shirt. I guess it's a shirt. I'll call it a shirt, whatever you want it. His vest. And yeah, it looks like Piccolo's going to turn around and open up a can of whoop ass on him, but unfortunately, all this is cut short because good old Cooler shows up and quickly dispatches Piccolo.
Yeah, I really like this forest fight scene. I think there's a lot of cool stuff in it. They remember to use the stretchy arms. The key blade on the arm for Salsa is pretty cool. I'm going to continue to point these out because we've already mentioned that there's a big parallel between Cooler's armored forces and the Ginyu Force. So Cooler and Frieza parallel. This is another parallel that I don't think that I noticed this when I watched this as a kid, but Cooler very clearly uses a death beam that fires through Piccolo's chest. Very, very reminiscent of when Frieza comes back from getting hit with the spirit bomb and blasts Piccolo with a death beam right through the chest.
And another similarity you may not have picked up on is just like how Jace had a terrible Australian accent, Salsa has a terrible French accent. So there's
Uh,
another parallel you could draw on.
yeah, that's a good one. Of course, we are watching the 90s dub or maybe early 2000s dub at this point. Um, so yeah, they continue with their interesting voice stereotypes. Um,
I just cracked. I didn't really notice it until because he actually had some dialogue here. I was like, oh God, oh no.
yeah, welcome to the 90s and early 2000s.
My gosh.
um,
Well, anyway, kind of while this is happening, Gohan arrives at Goku's shelter cave thing where Krillin's at. And he's got the bag of beans, right? And he's going to hand them to Goku. But, oh no, Salsa somehow made it there at the exact same time. And he shoots the bag of beans with a key blast, disintegrating it and catching it on fire, and it's no longer usable. Um, this infuriates Krillin, who charges out to do battle with Salsa. But it's at this point that Gohan remembers, wait a minute, hold on. Yajirobe tossed me a bean separate from the bag, so I still got a bean on me. And he tosses that bad boy right over to Goku.
yeah, yeah. So Goku
That's a plot
has a
twist.
bean. Yeah, they're I don't know. This is just funny. Like they try to set something up and then they have some payoff. It's all within like 5 to 10 minutes of each other. Which this is it's a short movie, but I don't know. I'm not overly upset about this little like twist. It at least gets Goku up, and we kind of find Krillin getting spanked to Salsa now seeing his scouter read Goku's power level. There is kind of, to me, a funny line where he's like, the Saiyan in there was basically dead. It can't be him. Could it be the pig?
That is pretty. Actually, I didn't catch that. That's really funny.
I actually thought that was pretty funny.
Oh my
uh,
gosh. But yeah, it's I mean, Goku's unseen now and he's all beamed up and fully healed. But if you thought we were going to get a battle between Salsa and Goku, you're wrong because Cooler arrives unseen and you see him just like toss Piccolo off to the side and blast him with a key blast, just kind of treat him like garbage he's discarding, and he does all this right in front of Goku's eyes.
what do you think about like? So first off, it's interesting to me that they basically just hit Krillin in the back of the head and knocked him out at the very beginning of the movie where they were camping, and then they just left him. They didn't kill him or finish him off. But also in this scene, like Piccolo's already been basically death beamed through the chest, and then full on like key blast exploded. Do you feel like Piccolo should have been dead here?
I thought that was going to be like the insinuation at the very least, but I mean, the second I saw the explosion, I was like, oh wow, they actually killed Piccolo, and then you see his body fall. I was like, nah, he's fine. So I never had a doubt that anything was really going to happen to him. Once I saw his body falling from the cloud, and even if something did happen, they would find a way to wish him back or something. So it's not like consequences are really something that I expect in these movies. But I don't know. I thought that maybe they were going for some sort of emotional response from this. I thought this was going to be the catalyst to get Goku to juice up to Super Saiyan, but it ends up not being that. So I don't really the treatment of Piccolo, I don't really fully wrap my head around. They honestly could have just left him back where he was defeated by Cooler the first time, and it probably wouldn't have affected anything really.
Yeah, I agree. If they were gonna leave him alive, I feel like they shouldn't have had him get like blasted here. It kind of feels like he should have been killed if that was the intent for this.
I
This
agree with you.
second
It,
part.
it felt like they should have killed him to get Goku to go Super Saiyan or something, but like, I don't understand it. I'm supposed to get some sort of emotional draw, like, oh my gosh, you almost maybe kind of killed Piccolo. I'm so mad at you, Cooler. You're so bad.
Yeah, this does turn into Goku getting upset though, as he full on no sells a punch to the face from Salsa.
I actually love this though, because it's in the middle of a conversation between Cooler and Goku, and Goku doesn't even like recognize Salsa's existence. Like Salsa charges it and does like a full punch to Goku's cheek, and Goku's head turns a little bit. but his eyes never leave Cooler, and he just continues talking to him. It's amazing. I love this scene.
It's a pretty badass moment, especially because Goku's continuing talking to Cooler and then powers up, to which just his aura is enough to just blast Salsa away like an afterthought. It's very badass.
What's even more badass is the American rock music that kicks up at around this point. And Goku charges in the battle, and the two main characters of this story begin to do battle. And for like a minute, I mean, it almost looks like Goku's going to stand a chance, but it's a very brief minute against this Cooler fella, let me tell you.
It is pretty brief. This is though probably like really to me the meat of the fight. There are a few more Frieza parallels in here, which I don't know. They're interesting. They immediately, basically, as they engage in fisticuffs, go underneath water, which has like a very similar feel to me as the underwater scene when Goku fights Frieza. And then very quickly, as they are exchanging blows beneath the water, Goku grabs Cooler by the tail and like throws him out of the water. All of these connecting to Frieza. I mean, you could argue that, they're just using what they have available to them because, of course, Cooler has a tail just like Frieza and there's water nearby. But it's hard not to see them as at least a little bit of a parallel.
Yeah, I felt the same thing. I do think it was a reference to Goku's fight with Frieza. This is also a very brief little scene here where they just kind of quickly exchange some blows under the water, back out, and we're right into a monologue from Cooler, right? Like he's letting that hubris on display, and he's talking about how Frieza was arrogant and irresponsible, and he reveals that he's found a transformation beyond the final form that he's currently showing that Frieza had showed him. And yeah, I call this the final form. And he begins his transformation into a taller, more menacing looking form with like a big head crest with 4 spikes that kind of come off of it. And it even comes with nifty retractable face armor, which I thought was, well, interesting because I think this is their biology.
Yeah, I think so. I want to talk about this form really quick because I have some mixed thoughts. I'm going to start by saying I love the way this form looks. I think it's super badass. It very much has like, especially with the face mask, has like a Shredder from Ninja Turtles look, and I'm all about it. I will say though, the one thing that is maybe a knock against it is that if we look at like Frieza's transformations from his first form to like the very small compact form to his next form being like tall, big horns, big tail, imposing, muscular, to his third form being like very big, long head, abstract, like alien face, kind of menacing, and then his final form being once more like small, lean, sleek, streamlined, and that is like that's Toriyama circumventing expectations, which is something that he does a lot, right? Just like Vegeta and Nappa, you have like the big muscular guy, and then the small little troll doll is the one who's really the scary one of the two. So this, in some ways, takes like the streamlined form that we see of Cooler's final form, and then makes it like big, bulky with like lots of extremities. So it kind of flies in the face of Toriyama's usual approach to characters and what power really looks like. So I would say that's a little bit of a knock against it, but I still love the way that it looks.
It's just kind of a rule of cool thing, right? Like, I feel like they sat down in a room and said, yeah, we think this would be a cool transformation. And I mean, it's fine. These movies are, I don't know, kind of alternate dimensions stuff happening. So I'm kind of okay with just going with something that looks cool, even if it kind of breaks from the normal cadence of how Toriyama would have done it.
Yeah, I would agree. So we move back into the fight with, like you said, Goku was holding his own originally, and now this is a full-on like ass whooping. Cooler is just knocking Goku across the landscape. He hits him into the water and then follows him into the water and like knocks the water around as he punches Goku in the gut. And this next scene is one that I really like as Goku starts implementing the Kaioken to fight Cooler.
So I also want to point out here, it's kind of a, I don't know, it's kind of a nitpick for me. But one thing I wish this movie would have done more of that's really sorely missing is you don't get the move announcements. You don't get the scream of Kaioken or Kamehameha or anything like that. The moves just sort of happen. And I wish there was a little bit more a little bit more theater to these moves coming out. It's not a big deal, but I do feel like it's kind of missing that Goku doesn't shout it and jump into that iconic form.
I hard agree with you. As soon as you started saying that, even before you mentioned like them not saying the names, I knew exactly what you were going to say because I felt the same. Like we don't get the announcement of the Kaioken. We'll see, I think at least twice where the Kamehameha is used and there's no name called out for it, which is it's just a bummer. I just enjoy hearing the names.
Yeah, you see the blue energy and you're like, I'm pretty sure that's Kamehameha, but I wish they would have said it because I think we've seen just blue energy before in other areas. I can't think of them off the top of my head. So it's nice having that clear indication that, yes, this is a Kamehameha. Actually, I think the Spirit Bomb's blue too, right?
It is, yeah. Yeah. The only other indication is we see him in this movie, we'll see him like draw his hands back into the Kamehameha pose and then throw them forward, but doesn't announce it.
But yeah, even with the moves muted, Goku is outmatched. The Kaioken doesn't level the playing field pretty much at all, and Goku's shirt even gets destroyed. So you know things are getting real serious here.
100%. I do want to just briefly touch on the way the Kaioken looks in this. I absolutely love.
Oh yes, hard agree. Yeah, I'm glad you touched on that because I do remember, like, I've got clear images of it in my head of how well it was actually animated.
Yeah, it looks phenomenal. As you see Goku like go into the Kaioken, his hair shoots straight up. You see the red aura around him, and then you immediately see him like disappear in a flash of red aura. But you see him like darting around Cooler, and you see the trail of like the red Kaioken aura behind him. Looks awesome. There is, though, I want to point this sequence out because Goku's like dashing around Cooler, and Cooler's he basically like gives Goku a back fist in the face, and then we cut to a shot of Cooler like holding his arm in this 90-degree angle with his fist up, and Goku like swings at Cooler, to which Cooler disappears. And then Cooler just reappears in the exact same shot and pose and like is elbowing Goku in the head, knocking him downward. I'm torn on whether this is like supposed to be Cooler just styling on Goku or if it was the animators just being really lazy and using the same like cooler.png for him hitting Goku into the ground.
You know, honestly, and actually, I think I even sent you an image of something earlier where I was just like, I feel like they skipped a little bit here. So it could be either, or maybe it could be, I don't know, a joke. I honestly don't know. I'm very Jekyll and Hyde with what I see on the screen with this, where there are some things that look absolutely fantastic. And then there are some things where you're like, all right, there's definitely some skipping in the animation budget here. This has to have been them just phoning it in because they didn't have time to really animate this up to the level that they've even done in this own little mini movie.
Yeah, I agree. You can definitely see some spots where they're cutting corners, but there's a lot of really fun choreography in here where like the next sequence right before Goku's shirt comes off is Cooler like uppercutting Goku in the stomach, hitting him into a wall, and then fucking full on like circling him over his head and planting himself a dumbass tree in the ground as he throws Goku into the dirt. And then I think the next sequence is one of our Kamehamehas.
Yeah, it's actually a Kaioken Kamehameha wave. And once again, I'm missing like the big grand EOS announcement here. Kaioken plus Kamehameha. This should be something that's like really kind of, there should be gravitas to it. But it's not as much as I would like. Animation wise, I actually think it's pretty decent. But just sound wise, like just the sound effects, the voice acting here was kind of absent. Audio wise, I thought this was handled very poorly, but visual wise, I actually thought it looked pretty good as this giant super juiced Kamehameha wave with, you know, some American rock music behind it comes flying towards Cooler, who just kind of powers up for a moment and then flies through this giant blast with ease. And you see Goku even like freak out, like, "Oh gosh, no!" before he's just punched and cratered into the ground, into this like craggy cliff-like face. To which Cooler begins gloating about his power and the weakness of Frieza.
Yeah, I wanted to point out too the visual is pretty cool. The only thing I didn't like about the Kamehameha is it has this sort of like computerized digital effect to it, almost like these weird blue swirling, they almost look like pixels or particles. It kind of looks like mid 90s where they were kind of flirting with using like CGI stuff to enhance some of the visuals, and I'm not a huge fan of it. Also, Cooler like running or flying through the beam, the Kamehameha, another parallel to Frieza, where we had Frieza and he had like the aura around him fighting Super Saiyan Goku, and Frieza pushes his way up through the beam to get to Goku. So they're really harkening back to Frieza a lot with this movie.
Yeah, and also I think sometimes flying through the beam is such a flex where it's just like, I'm not gonna deflect it, I'm not gonna go around it, I'm gonna go through it because I'm strong enough, and F you, that's why.
For sure. It's a like it's probably happened, especially since Frieza. It's probably happened quite a few times, and it's definitely a great way of showing just the extreme power difference between these two fighters.
Well, speaking of extreme power, we've got a powerful Disney princess moment that's coming up here. Would you like to set the table for us?
Yeah, I could do that. So this is kind of funny because we do kind of get we show like Gohan and Krillin down and out. We see the like a memory of Piccolo being exploded. We also see a bird just lying on the ground. Looks like the bird is dying effectively. And this seems to be the moment of Goku, like now he's getting angry. Now there's something on the line for him as he grabs this bird.
This random bird.
And you see, I don't know if he's putting ki into the bird or what. As he like yells, you see his hair start to go up, but the bird glows with like a golden light, and then rises from his hand, alive, and flies away as we get our Super Saiyan transformation.
It's just, I don't know, like anime Jesus. I don't know what's going on here, but like, all right, bird, I'm gonna revive you and I'm gonna get revenge. I can't stand a big monster who hurts birds.
I also wanted to say the transformation itself is basically off screen.
This is, I actually have a note here. This is one of the worst looking Super Saiyan transformations ever. It's basically nothing for one of the most important events in all of Dragon Ball. We get no fanfare for this one, none.
I totally agree. Like we kind of see him scream, we see his hair go up, we cut to the bird, and then we cut back to Goku, and he's already like golden, glowing aura, like blonde spiked hair. It's not a good transformation.
No, and I mean, Goku's all juiced up now, and we see him kind of like fly over, like instantly show up by Cooler and kind of grab his arm and restrict him. And once he catches Cooler's hand, he begins like lecturing him, like, you're a naughty little boy, just like he did with Frieza on Namek, where he starts flexing his power over him, right? Like, isn't that another comparison?
That's actually, in fact, he even goes so far as to like, I didn't catch that one, but he goes so far as to grab Cooler by the wrist, which there's a sequence where he grabs Frieza like by his hands and squeezes them. It's very similar to that, actually. That's funny.
Yeah, because I think on Namek, Frieza's going to like Death Ray one of Goku's friends, and Goku just like pops up and grabs Frieza's arm, and Frieza begins squirming, and you get like a similar kind of vibe from this.
That's a good point. Yeah, I didn't catch that one. It turns to, though, Cooler like swatting Goku's hand away and then punching him right in his fucking six-pack abs, to which Goku again fully no cells, doesn't even respond.
And I think this stuff is cool, but one of my big problems with these little movies is that I feel like we always get like very, I don't know, in unequal power level fights. Because before, Cooler was just mopping the floor with Goku. Well, now Goku's going to mop the floor with Cooler. All right. Like, we're going to do a little 180 here. I like it when the power levels are a little bit more similar and you get some back and forth. Because right now it's like, all right, well, Goku's won. Goku's just ultimately more powerful. At least it feels that way. And spoiler alert, it ends up that way. Like, this is kind of the end of the fight. I wish there would be like another leg to it, but I mean, we're most of the way through our 45 minutes we know we got.
Yeah. Yeah, I hard agree with you. In fact, I was going to bring up that this after Goku turns Super Saiyan, there is almost no fight. Like it's a beatdown, but it's a very short beatdown. Goku delivers a couple of blows to Cooler, to which Cooler just like fires a big ki blast to kind of distract Goku. I will say Goku's hair kind of blowing in the wind looks gorgeous in that moment. But this turns to Cooler like flying up into the air and quickly charging a giant death ball, and he's like, "Fuck you! I'm gonna blow you up and the planet," throwing it down at Goku.
And I I mean, it's obviously another comparison to Frieza, right? But I do like on this one where he kind of uses like a flurry of ki blasts to give himself that moment to get that death ball together. And I do like that he kind of was a little bit more strategic about it because Goku has seen this at this point, right? He probably wouldn't let something like this happen. So I thought it was a nice little attention to detail. And this giant ball of energy, of course, Cooler sends it towards the planet, just like Frieza did. But Goku catches it this time, and we see him kind of plant himself into the ground. This is actually animated decently well, where you feel the weight of that giant energy sphere kind of pressing down at him as the ground cracks and he's pressed in. And at some point it stops, and you see it launch right back towards Cooler, and it impacts Cooler and begins pushing him back. And we see this giant blue beam of energy just kind of give it that extra oomph that sends it flying off into space with Cooler attached to it. And I thought it was interesting that not only does he get sent off into space, but we see him fly into our sun and explode. What are your thoughts on this?
Like, it's cool. It definitely has cool factor to it. Like sending somebody into the sun to kill them, awesome. But adding the explosion, like especially knowing that we have this ki blast from Goku added with this death ball from Cooler, I feel like maybe it wouldn't completely destroy the sun, but I feel like it would definitely take a chunk out of it and cause some problems.
Yeah, something noticeable would happen because I'm assuming that, because Cooler's stronger than Frieza, that this death ball is like a stronger, more potent death ball on its own, plus all the Kamehameha juice in there. It's hard to tell. It's hard to know. But I also almost glossed over the most important part is that while Cooler was being sandwiched between a giant ki blast and the sun, the literal sun, he has a flashback and remembers the Saiyan pod he let escape and is like, "Oh no, I shouldn't have done that." What irony! Just like, okay.
Yeah, again, this feels a little bit ham-fisted. I wonder, do you think this would have been better if they would have placed this memory sequence at at the beginning of the movie when he's like, "Oh, there's a Saiyan that killed Frieza. Oh, I bet you it's that one that got away." Do you feel like that would have been better?
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I feel like you're trying to put too many events into like the Frieza's one event at this point. Like, I'm sick of everyone trying to tie everyone to Planet Vegeta blowing up, because now we got Beerus is involved and we got Cooler's involved and Bardock's now here. And it's just like all this stuff is happening with this one event. It might have been interesting to maybe like, I don't know, tie in like the reveal that he let the pot escape, but maybe not have him realize it or something like that. Like, there could have been more levels to this, but it seemed like too much of a convenient thing to have happen and then remember at that point. Like, I don't know if he would have thought about that much. Actually, I did like in the scene where they're looking at Goku's pod. He's like, zoom in on it. Now zoom inside of it. So there's actually a scene of them zooming inside of the pod and seeing Goku's face. I don't know why it just made me laugh. It's like, zoom in more. Zoom in inside of it. Yeah, we got that technology. We're in space, baby.
Space cameras, man. Yeah, it's a little, I don't know. It feels very, it feels like trying to tie a story together in a, I don't know if I want to say an unnatural way, a very forced way, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, if anything, I would have liked to have known more about like what Cooler did other than watch Goku's pod escape, sit on a planet until he heard about Goku killing his brother, and then showing up and dying to Goku. It doesn't seem like Cooler has much story beyond the events surrounding things that Goku has been involved in.
Yeah, not at all. Even we see him like on, I think we see him on a throne on a planet that is like completely barren too. Like there's just nothing that is really develops his character beyond I'm Frieza's brother and I'm going to prove that I'm better than Frieza.
So I don't know. I could very easily nitpick all the events we did see, but really the big complaint is the stuff they didn't even bother trying to show. I would actually love to know more about Cooler and how he was different than Frieza, and how he ruled, and there's a lot of cool stuff they could have done, but I just feel like we didn't get any of it. So it's hard for me to critique much because we weren't given much to work with.
Agreed. I do believe that Cooler amongst the fan base is one of the more well liked movie villains, and I completely agree with you. I would love to see Cooler taken and fleshed out, like made into a fully fleshed out character with some backstory, some narrative, maybe some like give us some reason as to why there was like fallout between him and King Cold, like show us some of the interactions between Cooler and Frieza when they were younger, and Frieza being given preferential treatment over Cooler. I would love to see that stuff and flesh out that detail.
If you were to ask me right now, like we've watched how many movies? Is this the fifth-ish?
Yes.
Of the five original movies that we've watched so far, if I had to pick one of them to be remade with like modern level animation and to beef up the story, to redo at a modern level, I would probably pick this one over the other four, just because this one Cooler feels like a more interesting villain than the other ones we've seen. And I feel like he actually could add more to the Dragon Ball universe than maybe the other ones that, because Lord Slug is kind of weird. Actually, even the story we did get with him, I kind of wasn't really vibing with. The Dead Zone was also just kind of weird, and I don't know if I need that. It would have been interesting to get more history between Garlic and Kame. Like that would be something that I'd be interested in learning about.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I think like Cooler, I think is the character that would be the most rewarding to see developed more.
Yeah, I agree. Especially because I think getting more fleshing out Cooler also fleshes out one of my favorite villains in Frieza. Like we don't know a lot about Frieza's race or species. We don't know. I mean, there's like, I don't know. Some of the video games try to flesh some of that stuff out. Like I think they are supposed to be like asexual or something. But we don't really know how that works. Like how are they born or created? What is
there's
there
gotta be
like
something, right? Because Frieza has a dad and a brother, so they're coming from somewhere. Unless it's something like I guess with like Daima, with like the way the Glen were produced, is they were siblings, but they weren't like, birthed conventionally. Maybe it's something like that.
Yeah, it absolutely could be. So I would love to dig into
Do a
the
birthing
history
episode? Yeah, we can talk about how everyone gets down and dirty.
I mean, we can get some beautiful sequences like the Cell Juniors coming out of Cell's back. I'm not going to.
Well, we had to blur that, so I didn't want YouTube to ban us. But
yeah.
Let me real quick. I'll just put a bow on this since we're basically at the end.
Yep.
Cooler's defeated. Goku is shirtless and tired. We get a scene where the Salsa henchman emerges from the underground, but is quickly killed on screen from Piccolo, who is off screen. And I am uncomfortable with how well Gohan was able to watch this happen as a child right in front of him. Like he just like
Huh.
laughs and is like, "Oh, that's so Piccolo. Hey, where you at, buddy?" You just watch a man get his heart shot in front of you. Like, what the hell?
That's very funny. I didn't even really. I'm so used to Gohan just acting that way that I didn't even think about that. But you're absolutely right that it's. I mean, at this point in the show, Gohan's been through some shit. So yeah, it's. I really wish that trauma that Gohan went through got explored more. But this basically is just like a gag of Piccolo killing the guy off screen. It's also kind of like it's kind of censored, right? Like you see the blast come through, you get like a wide shot of Salsa, and then you get a close shot of like Salsa's face, and then he just falls over dead. Like we don't even see the blast go through him or anything, which is kind of goofy.
And it's not just a blast; it's definitely a special beam cannon.
Yes, yeah, which, as we know, drills things.
And they use specifically that one, so that way it's Piccolo's blast. So there's no mistaking it.
Yes, yeah, 100%. It's his iconic technique. But again, like this turns into Piccolo just kind of being, he's fine. Like I really feel like he should have been killed, or they should have just left him out of that sequence of him getting blown up. And then I would feel better about him showing up at the end here.
Yeah, and I mean it's weird because like Goku took that one blast to the back and had to get a sense, like he was basically done. He took one blast from Cooler and was unable to fight. And then Piccolo takes like a similar level blast while he's unconscious and bounces back fine enough to actually defeat a arguably pretty powerful henchman. So that doesn't make a ton of sense. I think it's mostly there just for a gag. So I probably shouldn't think too much about it, but still, come on, we can do better gags.
Yeah, I would agree. It's a good way of kind of like showing like Salsa, you're really an afterthought. Like you are not truly a big deal in this story. But I'm glad that they did at least show Salsa before the movie wrapped up, because then I would just be like, what happened to Salsa?
Hey, that'd be a cool loose end to come back.
That would be interesting to see him like come back and hunt Goku or something. But
but that wraps up the movie. We get some American Rock and some credits. And yeah, what'd you think? What'd you think about our Cooler's Revenge debut for me?
One thing I forgot to bring up that I want to circle back to before we get into our thoughts about the whole thing. You mentioned the music again, where they had music like at that sequence where Goku is like resurrecting the bird and turning Super Saiyan.
Yeah.
I don't know the band, or even really, I don't think I know the name of the song. I'm going to call it, the song title to me is Change, which I thought was interesting because it's during a transformation sequence, and there's literally a dub line from Cooler during this song that is talking about somebody changing, where Cooler says, he's different, he's changed. And I'm like, I like what they were going for there, but also it feels like a little on the nose.
Yeah, that's yeah, that is a bit on the nose, isn't it?
Yeah, so I don't know. It was just a funny beat. But for the movie overall, I think there's a lot that I like in this one. Like we talked about with Cooler himself, I think that he'd be a fun villain to explore more. I like a lot of the fight choreography and sequences. There's definitely parts where the animation kind of cuts corners, but not a lot as far as the animation goes, I will say. The Kaioken looked phenomenal. Just watching Cooler fight is fun. Like even in the video games, Cooler gets some very iconic moves ripped directly from this movie. And I think that my biggest problem with this movie is that chunk in the middle where it just feels like this weird forced lull of like Goku's out of commission, and our side characters have to figure out a way to like survive and get Goku back in action. It just feels, for a 45-minute movie, that part feels drawn out.
Yeah, it was like this unnecessary drama. And I don't know, maybe they felt like there wasn't enough story in their story, so they needed something to happen. But I mean, we're Dragon Ball fans. We don't need that. The drama is this guy's here to kill you. I don't need any more drama than that. Uh, and I don't know. I feel like they've done this a couple times in these movies where they try and add some extra drama, like some extra layer to it, just to make it a more complex experience. But if anything, I think it kind of detracts from what would. Yeah, I mean, it would be a simple formula, but it would have been fun just to have them do more fighting. But it's also probably a lot cheaper to do some animations of characters talking and just like the same animation of the dragon flying. It's probably a lot more budget unfriendly to do a bunch of fighting.
And that's a good point. Yeah, I think that it would be a better movie if you shorten that chunk or even remove it entirely, the chunk of Goku getting like being knocked out of commission. And then I want more of Super Saiyan Goku versus this final form Cooler. Like I think that would be very fun. I also don't feel like, I mean, power scaling in Dragon Ball is bullshit, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to me that there is that big of a power disparity between Super Saiyan Goku and this extra form, this even above final form transformation. So I think you easily could have had them fighting like on an even ground before Goku finishes Cooler off.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, honestly, I kind of expected it because it's Super Saiyan was comparable to Frieza's final form. And so if Cooler goes beyond that, like a next form up, usually when you do a transformation, there's a power jump that comes with it. I would assume that, I mean, I don't know, that would bring it up to whatever power level Goku's at. It kind of doesn't make sense to me, but
yeah.
There are ways for me to like hand wave it, be like, well, the inherent power level of Frieza might have been higher than Cooler's. So,
right.
Each transformation multiplies your power, but if you have a lower base number, then I don't know. That would be kind of my hand wavy explanation, but there's nothing really in the movie that tells you why things are working the way they are. You're just kind of guessing at it.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, Goku took a lot of damage on Planet Namek. And if we're so he would have certainly gotten like a Zenkai boost from that. If we're saying that this is also like after Trunks came to Earth and after Goku did all of his training on planet Yardrat, like Goku's had a year to train after his fight with Frieza too, so sure he's gonna be stronger. I don't know. Again, trying to figure out power scaling is silly, but I'm just saying that I wanted them to fight more. The
100% with you.
Cool.
We got a new cool Frieza-esque transformation. We got Super Saiyan. I want to see him throw hands, but we don't really get that, unfortunately.
Yeah. I'm trying to think anything else for this one. I like the henchmen, even though we kind of follow like a very, very formulaic henchman style here. I think I'm trying to think of. We had 3 henchmen in the very first movie with the Dead Zone. We had 3 henchmen in The World's Strongest.
Mm-hmm.
I think we had more than 3 in The Tree of Might, if I'm not mistaken. I think there was more like 5 because you had. I can't remember all of them, but I think there was enough to fight all of the other Z fighters, basically. And then Lord Slug, you had 3, I think.
Well, I think he started out with 4, but he immediately kills one himself, so it goes down to 3.
Technically true, right? And then this one you had 3. So, and the Team 4-star joke is you always get the strong one, the pretty one, and the one with weird powers. And in Lord Slug and this one, that is definitely true for sure.
Absolutely. And the one with weird powers is always the most interesting one.
Yeah, I like the salamander guy. He had like this weird lightning key attack. He had the retracting head. He was fun. He was kind of quirky. The fighting with Piccolo was fun. They remembered his stretchy arms. Yeah, I mean, overall, I like this one. Really, the biggest problem with this movie, and probably with most of the movies, is that there's just it feels like a skeleton as far as like the narrative goes. Like there's just not a lot of meat on those bones.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that would be more forgivable if more animation budget was put into these. Like if it was just a feast for the eyes, I wouldn't care if the story was lackluster. But the animation quality is like average, I would say. Like average for Dragon Ball Z in the middle of the series. So it's not movie level. But it is like series average level. And the story's weak, so you kind of get this okay-ish experience. Like I had some fun watching this one, but I also don't see myself ever really having that urge to be like, all right, I got to go back and watch that Cooler movie. Like it's kind of generic in a way. It doesn't really wow me as much as maybe something else. And I know they can do well with this because the History of Trunks is like one of my favorite little mini series super episode things that I've watched. I owned it on VHS back in the day.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I think for me, it like if I want to experience anything from this, I'll just go on YouTube and watch like a couple of the fight scenes. And I mean, that lasts maybe 15 minutes and I'll basically get everything that I want to get out of the Cooler movie.
Yeah, and I would love to see something like this movie revisited with the modern studio and the modern take on things to spruce up the storyline a little bit, and see everything animated to the beautiful quality it could be animated in. And I mean, I would also like to see more differences between Frieza and Cooler and make Cooler a little bit more of his own character and how he would do things, because the vibe I kind of got was that Cooler was more calm, more thoughtful, more in control than Frieza was. That Frieza was a little bit more arrogant and rash. And so I'd like to see more of those differences expounded upon.
I agree. I think to add to that, I would love to see like I like that Cooler had a lot of Frieza's techniques effectively. We saw the death beam and the death ball very clearly. I think it would be cool to get some of Frieza's techniques, but with a twist on them. Make it such that,
Absolutely.
yeah, and even make it such that Goku's like, oh, I know how this works, and then it doesn't work the way that he expects it to. I think that could be really fun to kind of explore that.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone would argue with it. We always kind of got the vibe that Frieza's been stronger than any encounter that Frieza's ever had to come up against. So I could see Frieza being like, I have these techniques and they just work. I never have to think any further. Whereas Cooler's the type who's just like, you know what? I have plans in case things don't work because I think about things.
That would be a cool twist to it too. To have Cooler be the one who's kind of had to work harder and actually come up with variations of these kind of or not generic, these inherent techniques
Like
effectively.
living in Frieza's shadow. So he's like kind of plotting and thinking things through a little bit further.
Yeah. Man, he's like I like the idea of Cooler so much. I just wish that we got more.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I and even what you said about the character design, even though it kind of goes against what Toriyama would normally do, it's rule of cool for me, and I'm okay with that. And this is kind of an offshoot little thing, so let's take some creative steps to go outside the box a little bit and just see how it does. I don't think I would like this for everything, but I'm okay with it in this instance, kind of doing your own thing and making a character kind of unique to themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. We even it's funny because in the like the video games and the promo material, the Super Dragon Ball Heroes, we get to see like Cooler come back, but we see him transform into like his final form, but then final form golden, like golden
Ooh.
Frieza, which is funny, but also again it's like okay, now he's still just copying Frieza. Like there's there's nothing new or unique or interesting to this.
Yeah, I then again, that's kind of a problem with Dragon Ball anyway, where everyone just kind of uses the same bucket of things. Like, oh well, there's another Super Saiyan, everyone's going to go ahead and do that. Oh, we got a different MS Paint can that we're gonna hit these characters with. Everyone's gonna do that. There's not a whole lot of divergence with characters. Everyone seems to always come together on the same techniques.
It's that's largely true. We've only started to see that diverge a tiny bit in like the tail end of Super with Ultra Instinct and then in the manga beyond, but Yeah, it's mostly recolors, which is a little unfortunate. That's
It's
why
fun,
Cooler's
though.
so cool, though. He looks cool.
Yeah, he does look cool. And I don't know. There's a lot of fun left on the table with this one. If Dragon Ball was going to kind of reclaim one of the movies to bring into the fold, into the canon fold, I would hope it would be Cooler's Revenge, because I think there's a lot you can do with this. Remake this movie, tie up the loose ends a little bit, and give Cooler some more personality. And I think you've got a great formula here.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think I have a whole lot more to say about it. There's lots of good. There's a little bit of bad in pacing, and if you don't like I mean, it's a toss up as to whether people will like the rock music from the '90s. But did you have any other thoughts about it, Dayton?
No. I mean, it's a pretty fun movie. I wasn't bored watching this one outside of that little jaunt in the middle where they're trying to inject some story, but no, it's a good watch. I actually do recommend this one.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's going to be it for this episode of Instant Transmission, where we discuss everything Dragon Ball. This has been your host, Todd.
And Dayton.
Don't forget, we're on Patreon and Discord. If you want to help us sail across space into the sun, you can find us at patreon.com/ITDBpodcast. The Discord link will be in the episode description, but you can also find it and all of our other links at linktree/ITDBpodcast. Thank you all so much for your support. Be sure to join us next time as we circle back to where it all began. And no, I don't mean OG Dragon Ball. We're going even further back to Bardock, the father of Goku. At a time before Planet Vegeta was nothing but space dust, we join Bardock and his team of Saiyan warriors as they conquer alien planets under Frieza's name. But Frieza might have a welcome home surprise for the monkeys.
I wonder what it could be. I've never seen this event.
Uh-huh. Will Frieza get his hands dirty against the Saiyans? Will any of Bardock's allies make it out alive? Wasn't Bardock supposed to be a brilliant scientist? Find out next time. And to all our fellow Dragon Ball fans, stay safe out there, and remember to keep rocking the dragon.
Dude, I can't wait to find out what happened with Goku and Bardock.
Round 12.
Gosh, just let it die.